I have a lot of clipboards these days. There's a lot of committees and meetings and different things. And to stay organized, I use them. But you know what? They're not always so much fun. So today I'm going to use my ScanNCut and we're going to customize a fun one for my business. So I've got a bunch of different acrylic paints that I just smeared onto this clipboard. And now I'm just using a scraper tool to scrape that paint across. I want it to blend a little bit. I don't want to worry about perfect at all. And I'm just going around and smearing the paint. Now, once I'm done doing this, I will actually blot this with a paper towel. And the reason is when you see the finished product again, it's going to leave some texture, and I love that texture. So once this is done, set it aside, let it dry, and get out your words. So I have here written project plans and goals. No, it's not perfect. I don't want it to be perfect. I specifically wanted this to be like I just sketched it out. I'm just going over with a dark pen, the same pen that I wrote with, and I'm making sure to just kind of thicken the lines up where I want thickened. I like to do this where I start thin and then add thickness as needed for my cut files. Once that's done, guess what? We're going into scan to cut, and we're going to go ahead and scan this on in, and what we're going to get back is going to be our design, which we will save. You can save this to a USB. If you wanted to do more editing, you could send it over to Canvas Workspace. In my case, I'm good, so I'm just going to save this to my machine, and I click that middle button because I want the insides and the outsides of this file to cut. I don't want just the outside or just the inside. Now I'm playing around with smoothing to see if that gives me better results, and what ends up happening is I don't like what smoothing does. It takes away some of the insides of some of the letters and some of the character to it. So I'm just going to put it back to normal. But I mention this because it is important to remember there's a lot of built-in features to help you get the most of what you scanned, and sometimes adjusting those will give you a better result. So I like to keep that in there, the fact that I play around with that and everything. Once you are all done, you can go to the home screen. And you have lots of options there if we were built in, but we're not. We have a save to the machine. So we're going to go in, and I'm going straight to the bottom with that double arrow button because I know it'll be the very last one added. I'm adding it onto my mat. And then I'm selecting all of these files and then going into Object Edit and clicking to unify this file so that it treats it as one. Because if I'm going to size it up or down or move it, I want everything to move exactly together. I'm also changing my mat. I had a large mat in here for a different project. I'm changing back to the standard 12 by 12 mat. And then I'm also probably going to move this into the middle a little bit more just because I like to center my vinyl when I'm cutting it. I can also, again, I can make it bigger or smaller. I can reverse this. If I was doing iron-on, I would want to flip it so that it cut properly. But because we're doing sticker vinyl, we don't need to do that. And once everything is good, you don't need to add any more designs. There's nothing else you want to do. We go in and cut. And as a reminder, you can click that tool button if you need to turn half cut on. Once it's cut out, it's time to assemble. The first thing you're going to do is weed. And something I'm going to mention here is sometimes when I've got a pattern like this and there's just a lot of little bits, I'll pull a little bit off and then I'll use some scissors to snip the vinyl, because sometimes I just want to work around one part of one side. And if you snip the vinyl, then it allows you just that little bit more flexibility to get the piece off that you want to take off. When you have weeded or removed all of the vinyl pieces that you do not want to cut, what you're left with is your vinyl sticker. So your next step will be to get out some transfer material and press it on top. Now this is a larger piece of transfer material. I reuse the transfer material sheets. So because I'm reusing them over and over again, I don't need to custom size this. Bigger is just fine. So once that's there, we can save it. We can do it now. It depends, and it especially depends on if our paint is dry. You will want to set your clipboard aside until the paint is totally dry, ideally overnight. And then as you can see me here in fast forward, you're going to place that down where you want it. And then you'll notice I'm really pressing a lot. And the reason for that is because there's a little bit of texture to that. So you really want to make sure all of that vinyl has really stuck to your clipboard, to your painted clipboard before you start peeling off. And if you have any issues, you can always lift. You can always use your little brother pick tool there to kind of get in there and help it along as needed. Once it's done, you're done if you want to be done. Otherwise, you can take some glossy gel medium. This dries completely clear and shiny. Now, the only reason I'm doing this is I want to protect the paint and my vinyl from wearing off super quick because this is going to get used a lot. So I'm just coating, not perfectly, but all over the surface here, spraying a little of gold spray just for a fun little touch. Now, again, we're done. We could do more if we wanted, but we're done. So all I have to do now is set this aside, let it dry, and then get to work with all the great projects and plans that I have intended for this clipboard. Here you can see I put a little bit of ribbon at the top just to have a little more fun with it. I hope you've liked this idea. It's all rainbow and bright and fun and makes me want to get to work. I'll see you next time. Be sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future videos.